formerly Barbers Point, for those of you that don't know. Actually kind of chilly. I might need a sweater. It's in the 60s. Okay, I'm going to get started. Let's see here. So welcome everyone. Aloha mai kako. Happy New Year to you and your ohana. I hope everyone is safe and well. For myself, I'm on the 10th day of my annual beginning of the year cleansing fast. This year I'm doing what's called the Master Cleanse, and I've already dropped 16 pounds. So if I disappear from the screen, it's because a gust of wind came in and blew me away. Actually, I'm atoning for holiday excesses after Carol and we celebrated our 53rd wedding anniversary on December 27th. So mahalo for joining me today for my Listen Story community meeting of, it's the first one of 2022. And for you first timers, I'll start off with some community and legislative updates, and then I'll open it up to you for questions, comments, and concerns. It's Listen Story, so you talk, I listen. But there are two exceptions, and today is one of them. The first meeting of the session where I provide a preview of what's to come, and that would be today. And the last meeting of the session in May, where I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about what bills passed and which ones didn't. So I'll be doing most of the talking today. We'll save a few minutes at the end for Q&A, and we'll stop properly at 10 o'clock unless we finish earlier. If we don't get to cover your issue today, then we'll do the follow-up and then get back to you with an answer soon. And helping me today is my community liaison, Meg Turner. She'll be taking notes and sending out the meeting recording and slides next week. But before we jump in, I'd like to take just a few moments to introduce myself and my staff for session 2022. First, some background about myself. I'm a musician, songwriter. I made my first and only CD called Stand as One. You heard part of it at the beginning in 2002. And although it didn't go platinum, you know, with the sales of 1 million copies, we had fun making it. And if you're interested, you can check out some of the tunes on my website at mikegabbard.com. So I was a former high school English teacher, community college faculty member, guidance counselor, and dean, head tennis pro at the Turtle Bay on North Shore, formerly the Kuilima Hyatt back in 1977. I was a private school headmaster and teacher, vegetarian restaurant owner and operator, and then politics. 2002, got elected to the city council. 2006, got elected to the state senate. So I'm the chair of the, I was the chair of the Energy Environment Committee from 2009 to 2015. I chaired the Water Land Committee in 2016, and currently I'm starting my 6th year as the chair of the Agriculture and Environment Committee. So on January 15th, a week from today, my body will be 74 years young. And as you can see with my varied background, I am still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So, and now for some introductions. Enough about me. For the 2022 legislative session, which begins on January 19th and ends May 5th, my office manager is Corinne Gallardo, who oversees the overall operations of my office. There she is. She's in her first year with me at the state senate, and with 8 years at the Capitol and 12 years at the city council, Corinne comes to us with extensive experience in managing a high energy, fast paced environment while maintaining a sense of humor, which is very important. So my office is in very capable hands. Meg Turner, who enters her 8th year with me at the Senate, is my community liaison and social media manager, and she will be your best contact for all issues and constituent concerns related to Senate District 20. Meg and Corinne are my full-time year-round staffers. I also have 2 session hires who will be with me just for the duration of the session. Mike Greeno, while no stranger to the Senate, is Mike here? There he is. He's worked at the Ledge in various roles since 2011, I believe. He's here for the first time in my office as the AEN Chief Committee Clerk. He'll assist me with my Agriculture Environment Committee that I chair, as well as other committees that I sit on, the Judiciary Committee and also the Government Operations Committee. Ms. Skylar Giese, she worked in my office in 2020 under the Senate's internship program. There she is. Hi, Sky. While she was attending UH Manoa, Sky graduated recently with a political science degree, and I'm happy to be inviting her back as my legislative committee assistant for session 2022. I'm also happy to welcome my legislative intern for this session, Moani Pomari, who also attends UH Manoa. Moani here. There she is. Hey, Moani. And she comes to us via the internship partnership. Okay, so Meg, let's start off with a brief community update. We gave an extensive update in November at our last meeting, so we'll circle back with you, for those of you that attend, in mid-February at our next Listen Story meeting to see what kind of progress has been made since then. So currently in District 20, my Senate district, it's made up of Kapolei, Makakilo, and portions of Ewa, Kalailoa, and Waipahu. There's kind of a weird map. You can see the thumb over there. As you know, the census happens every 10 years, and as a result of the 2020 census, the number of people in each of the 25 Senate districts is reassessed and district lines are redrawn. So each senator gets approximately 56,000 residents to represent. So do the math, 25 senators times 56,000 equals 1.4 million people, okay? So the final legislative and congressional reapportionment plans were supposed to be filed with the chief election officer no later than February 27th. However, some issues have arisen, which will delay that. You've probably seen it in the media. The Hawaii Reapportionment Commission, they unanimously voted to restart its process of drawing the boundaries for the 76 seats in the legislature, 25 in the Senate, 51 in the House. Because the military notified the commission that it did not properly remove non-permanent resident personnel from the population counts used to conduct redistricting, which makes sense, right? The military, you get stationed here for 2 years, you move on. Why should you be considered part of the population? So as of January 5th, the Hawaii County will get an additional seat in the state house, and Oahu will lose one after the commission tasked with revising legislative boundaries. They decided it needs to go back to the drawing board. So that's not final yet. There'll be a meeting of the Senate Government Operations Committee, on which I sit, on Monday to continue this discussion, so stay tuned. Next, COVID. I've been getting some questions on how to get free COVID testing. Aloha Stadium takes walk-ins, but if you go there, expect to wait in your car for up to 2 hours. Also, there's Aloha Clear. This offers free testing by appointment. You can go to their website at aloaclear.com, create an account, and register for an appointment. It's important that they match your information with the test swab. So currently, the locations are taking people who register for an appointment at the Kamakana Li'i here in our district, in the parking lot. Look for a big tent set up, and also at the Carpenters Training Center at 2040 Lauwiliwili Street, which is just behind Costco. Construction. As far as I was honored to attend the groundbreaking and blessing on December 21st for the Aloha Multi-Specialty VA Clinic, and that stands for Advanced Leeward Outpatient Healthcare Access, right? And it's about a half mile from my house, a few hundred yards Mackay of Costco. And the VA awarded the lease to locate this 100 million, almost 90,000 square foot Aloha project in Kalailoa under a 15-year lease to be developed by hunt companies. And so the multi-specialty VA clinic will provide primary care, mental health care, x-ray laboratories, diagnostic, pharmacy, and specialty care for the area's veterans and for our 87,000 veterans on Oahu. The VA clinic, it'll bring approximately 400 jobs during construction and then more than 200 new clinic jobs between the healthcare and admin staff as they open. So hunt companies, they're investing more than $40 million in infrastructure improvements in the Kalailoa area, and that began this past summer. So this Aloha VA clinic is progressing well. The mass grading has been completed and the project was turned over to the next contractor, that's Nan Inc. And they'll take over the rest of the construction and also build the new building. So overall, the project remains on schedule to be completed by December of next year, December 2023. Next is Gentry Homes. Gentry has a new project just down the road from where I live. Some people thought that they were building high rises and they were happy when they found out that that's not happening. It's a 390 unit residential community, 256 multifamily attached units, 133 single family detached units, and it's on a 30-acre parcel. And the homes will be built in increments with site work beginning this year. It's bordered on three sides by future public roadways, Kopahe'e Avenue, Saratoga Road, and Kamakila Boulevard. And the hunt companies, they plan to improve these roads to city standards, of course, and providing an environment where it's safe and convenient for people to utilize conventional and alternative modes of transportation, including use of the rail, hopefully soon, bus, bicycles, and walking. So the northwest portion of the parcel is adjacent to the future site of the Aloha Vets Clinic that I just mentioned, which is identified in parcel 1C. The name of the new project is Ka'ulu, which means the hill that absorbs the sun. And it's, of course, named after the ulu, or breadfruit, one of the first trees early settlers brought to Hawaii. You know, when the original inhabitants, they arrived on Oahu, they landed in Kalailoa, and they planted the first ulu trees. So Gentry worked with Uncle Shad, he's a local cultural expert here, and other local kupuna to come up with the name, which highlights the origin of the first people living on Oahu, looking forward basically to beginning a new life, which fits in with the new second city, people moving out west to start a new life. There were no archaeological sites found on the site, and so it's been approved by SHPD, the State Historic Preservation Division, and the first homes are expected to be complete in 2023. Moving on, Hawaiian Humane Society, yes, and now drum roll, please. For you cat and dog lovers, the groundbreaking for the new Hawaiian Humane Society facility in West Oahu, which I attended, was on May 5th of last year. And it's at Fort Weaver and Old Fort Weaver Roads. The completion is expected by the end of this year, with the doors opening in early 2023. The cost is $28 million on it, and it's on 5.5 acres within the Ho'opili master plan. And it's about 2 times larger than their current location in Mo'iliili. The developer, D.R. Horton, they gifted the parcel of land, thank you, D.R. Horton, to the Hawaiian Humane Society in 2017. So the new facility, it'll have a 2-story main building. It'll offer the full range of core services, including adoptions, animal admissions, veterinary care, and spay and neuter services. It'll feature 3 dog pavilions, 2 cat pavilions. I'm a cat guy. I've got 5 feral cats that we adopted, so I'm glad they weren't discriminating against cats. A small animal pavilion and 2 gazebos, among other features, and a community dog park open to the public, which many folks have been asking me about. So it's estimated that more than 60% of West Oahu residents currently have pets, with that number, of course, expected to increase over time. Many pets, they get lost over New Year's Eve due to illegal fireworks, which can frighten them. And sometimes they cause them to panic and escape from their owners. So starting January 1st of this year, a statewide law went into effect requiring all pets in Hawaii to be microchipped. So the initial bill, it was introduced in the state ledge last year. It noted that 1 in 3 pets will become lost during its lifetime, and that 90% will not return home unless equipped with some sort of identification. And so that microchip, it's about the size of a grain of rice, is implanted beneath the pet's skin between the shoulders and can then be scanned for a unique number used to find the owner's contact information. Pretty cool. Next is the Kamauku Kauhale, tiny homes. Now, you may have heard of tiny homes, but did you know that this concept has expanded to help provide actually a solution to the problem of homelessness? The Kauhale Tiny Home Project in Kalailoa, a few hundred yards east from where I live, is doing just that. Kauhale, which means village, is a new approach to offering housing for those who experience persistent homelessness and they seek to live in a community that they can call home. It's a place where their dignity can be restored, providing not just a house, but actually a home. And the development and operations of Kauhale are modeled in part after the Community First Village in Austin, Texas, which is a 51-acre master plan community, which is successfully housing Austin's chronically homeless population. But this project in Kalailoa was developed by Home Aid Hawaii, largely through donations, and it's run by the U.S. vets located next door. It's led by an extraordinary individual and an executive director of Home Aid Hawaii, and that's Nani Medeiros. And she celebrated the grand opening of the first Kauhale community here on November 16th. I visited the grounds there, I think it's about a year ago, to tour the area and learn more about the project firsthand. So I'm impressed by Nani's tenacity and dedication to persevere under the challenging and difficult circumstances these past 2 years to make this project happen. I spoke to one of the vets there who resides in the vets living facility next door, and he was very happy to see the quality of the project and to know that the homeless would be no longer camping next door. So during the public blessing and grand opening, the name of the Kauhale was revealed, and that's Kama'o. The naming process, it was thoughtful and intentional. Nani and her team, they wanted to consider how to honor our koa kahiko, our veterans, in this specific wa, or place, a place of protection and peace where healing of spirit can be fostered. So the 37 tiny homes, each of them is about 100 square feet. They're located on 1.5 acres that contain community gardens and a common space. The cost of materials and labor for each tiny house is estimated at $20,000, including solar-powered air conditioning and electricity. It's kind of cool because when I was there, the lanais that you see there, the lanais are all facing each other so that you can sit down on a lanai and talk story with your neighbor. Yeah, really cool. Also a renovated former Navy warehouse. It was turned into a communal kitchen with communal bathrooms, laundry, and a medical clinic. And so residents are going to pay monthly rents of approximately $500. Lieutenant Governor Green, he proposed a total of 11 of these Kauhale projects around the state, including Waimanalo, Waianae, Kaka'ako, Kona, and Hilo, with hopes to expand the idea to more Oahu locations and then onto the neighbor islands. So mahalo to Lieutenant Governor Green. Due to a prior commitment to attend the Hawaii Farmers Convention in Maui, I couldn't make the grand opening. So my wife, Carol, she went in my place and got these great photos, which we made into a brief video for your enjoyment. Cool, huh? Yeah, yeah, really cool. Um, all right, so on to UH West Oahu. Excuse me. My staff and I, we had a wonderful visit on November 10th to the UH West Oahu campus. Um, we had a walk and talk tour around the beautiful expanding campus. And it's hard to believe it was almost 10 years ago when it first opened its doors to students in 2012. I've told the backstory at these meetings many times about this campus, which had its first appropriation, and listen carefully, from the legislature in 1966. I think it was $200,000 or $300,000 for planning. And then 46 years later, it finally opened its doors, and it really has become the pride of our community. So it was so gratifying as we walked around the campus to see the growth of this awesome campus. It was the first time they were opening up to visitors since the COVID lockdown. And UH West Oahu has experienced many exciting changes, and of course, with many more to come. They've gotten all kinds of national awards. Their enrollment continues to rise. It's over 3,000 now. And they've recently built a brand new amphitheater, which provided total shade from the bright west side sun. There's plans to build a new student bookstore, health and fitness area, library renovations, and more. And just before our final stop of the tour, I got to see the rail in motion with the train stop. It's just a 5-minute walk from the campus. And seeing the remarkable brand new high-tech Academy for Creative Media, I mean, it was a real treat. This building, it really is the pride and joy of UH West Oahu. I'm happy to have played a part in its completion, along with other campus improvements via our Senate CIP project. That's capital improvement projects, including a $35 million for the Creative Media building and then $7 million for the admin and allied health facility. The recently completed ACM, or Academy for Creative Media, it hasn't yet been unveiled to the public with a grand opening due to COVID. But it's a beautiful building with so many high-tech components and incredible aspects it has to offer students interested in pursuing a career in film and creative media. So I'm so proud of UH West Oahu and what they've accomplished. It's one of the biggest highlights of my time in the Senate, seeing our West Oahu campus in Kapolei finally come to fruition and to grow and thrive. I think there's a brief video. There's the train.
Sound, Jacob?
That's okay, it's just about over. And there's the Creative Media ACM building, just amazing. And there's Maynette Benham, the Chancellor. Great tour. Good stuff. All right, moving on. Let's get to the brief roads update. Roosevelt Avenue and Kamakila. So as of January 7th, Hunt is still working on finding the safest way to complete the work at the Roosevelt Kamakila intersection near the future VA clinic and Gentry Homes that I spoke about earlier, while still allowing traffic through the area and complying with the city and county standards. So right now it's if you haven't been there, it's two very skinny lanes, right? And because I go there often, it's right on the way to Costco. And it really is a bit unnerving when a huge truck is coming in the opposite direction. So please be careful when you're driving that section. It's just a few hundred yards long. But in another effort to minimize impacts to traffic, the Hunt's contractor, they're doing some of the work at night on Roosevelt Avenue. And during night work, those 2 lanes will be reduced to 1 lane. And of course, because it's night work, it's going to take longer. So Hunt is also coordinating with HCDA, Hawaii Community Development Authority, to minimize conflicts with the work that's being completed at the Roosevelt Enterprise intersection. And then on to Makakilo Drive Extension. The status, a few of you are asking what's up with MDE, we call it. The status, and okay, bummer time for Makakilo residents. As most of you on this meeting know, there's only one way in and out of Makakilo, with more than 18,000 people living there. A planned extension for Makakilo Drive would have connected, that you can see there on the map, connected north-south road, or coming, yeah, providing an east-west road, early exit from the people, exit from the freeway for people on that side of Makakilo. But instead of forcing them to come all the way around and to exit and deal with the congestion of lower Makakilo. So the project's been in limbo for several years. In fact, the original EA environmental assessment was completed in 2004. That would be 18 years ago. The road now dead ends midway down the back of Makakilo, and at the last house on the street, you can see there. Councilmember Tupola hosted a town hall meeting specifically on MDE, June 24th, to share the latest updates from the county, where the Department of Transportation Services from the county, and it was clear from the town hall that the DTS, they had no wish to pursue this project. So because federal funding is being used and there's a limit of how much can be allocated per year versus trying to use local funding, it appears that this project was dead in the water. However, the promise of some new COVID money from the feds may breathe new life back into the project, so stay tuned. And then Youth Challenge Academy. Excuse me. Aloha, congrats, and imua to class 55. On November 19th, I was honored to attend the commencement for class 55 in person. It's always very moving to see these cadets, many who come in with troubled backgrounds, unable to make it in traditional education for whatever reason, completely turn their lives around in only 5.5 months at this residential facility. For those of you who were in the military and remember boot camp, that's what this 5.5 months is, believe me. I hear Reveille go off in the morning at 4:30, the trumpets blaring, as we live just a few hundred yards away from the facility. But for those of you unfamiliar, YCA, it provides 16 to 19-year-old non-traditional, quote unquote, at promise youth a second chance to obtain their high school diploma and then become productive citizens within the community. And during each commencement ceremony, which I've been attending twice a year since 2013, the cadets sing and they perform a song that they write themselves. It's unique to them. So it was heartwarming to attend their on-campus commencement and also present the Mike Gabbard Scholarship for $500, as I do twice a year, to a deserving cadet on Oahu and also their facility on the Big Island. So you can see there, that's Sina Atanoa on the left. She's the director. And then that's Kashan Keo Savannah. That was the recipient of the Mike Gabbard Scholarship. And he'll begin studies at Leeward Community College in computer science. And then myself, and also that's Tama Tuitele Leapanga. That's the YCA Deputy Director. Okay, onward. Senate District 20 CIP. So capital improvement projects, right? For those who may not be aware, each senator is asked to provide their top 3 choices for funding award for CIP. And so the governor released $40.6 million in the state biennium budget for fiscal year 21 to 23 for the benefit of Senate District 20. So here's the breakdown. You can see it there. 2 million for DHHL, 132,000 for the transit, 5,132,000 for the transit. East Kapolei Elementary got 4 million. East Kapolei High got 500,000 for planning, and then $25 million to widen Farrington Highway from the Kapolei Golf Course to Fort Weaver Road, which is very much needed. $500,000 for Kapolei High for additional restrooms, and then $3.5 million for UH West Oahu. Onward to our community survey results. I sent out a survey on Thursday, which hopefully most of you saw, and I got back 55 responses. And here's the results. On the question of who do you feel should make state rules regarding COVID restrictions and guidelines, the response was the governor, 41.2%, lieutenant governor, 3.9%, mayor, 7.8%, state legislators, 47.1%. And so part two of the question was, please rank your community concerns in order of importance, with number 1 being the most important and number 10 being the least important. And so out of the 10 issues you were asked to order, it was interesting, of course, that affordable, but not really surprising, affordable housing and Red Hill fuel leaks were at the top, and climate change and vaccinated, unvaccinated were issues people were comparatively least concerned about. If you want I can send that to you what the results were. Let's move on to legislative updates. As I mentioned earlier, our session starts on January 19th. Unfortunately, you may have seen on the news that the Capitol will remain closed to the public because of COVID. So there's not going to be any opening day festivities, which all of us really look forward to. Folks coming in and sitting in session and then going to the offices and visiting and talking story, and the great refreshments that are served. In addition, we'll have live testimony via Zoom instead of in person at the Capitol. I'll be hosting a virtual Listen Story meeting each month, and then starting in February, and then we'll send you an email to register. So as far as getting involved in this session and sessions in the future, one of the silver linings of COVID, if you could refer to a silver lining at this time, this difficult time, is the state legislature moving to virtual hearings. What used to be a major hassle for people who want to testify on bills they're interested in, especially for folks on the West Side, think about folks in the neighbor islands, right? But folks on the West Side having to drive into town, deal with traffic, parking, and then waiting in crowded hearing rooms for their chance to speak. And then adding insult to injury, testifiers were often cut off after a minute or two. And while I never set time limits during my hearings in my committees that I chair, it's now a requirement for remotely conducted hearings, as they have to keep to very strict schedule to make this whole thing work. But with these many impediments gone, my advice to you is to take advantage of the online access and use this time to get involved. You can watch hearings live or on demand on the Senate YouTube channel. You can research the issues you're interested in, find out where legislators stand on those issues. And then as the session gets underway, I hope you'll take the time to weigh in with testimony on legislation that you think is important to you and your family and to the future of our state. It really makes a difference. Getting involved in the process, it really does. It's kind of exciting to watch the twists and turns of a bill, especially one that you're interested in personally, as it makes its way, winding its way through the legislature. But the first step is to visit the state Capitol website, as you can see here, capitol.hawaii.gov, and that'll show you how to do everything, where you can get signed up to submit testimony, hearing notifications, measure tracking. And, it can be a bit daunting for newcomers. So feel free to call my office and my staff can help walk you through it. There's also an excellent resource available to the public to help with understanding all the ins and outs by, it's called the Public Access Room, or PAR, so you can check them out as well. Okay, and then moving on. My legislation, before I talk about my legislation for 2020, I'd just like to say that, in case you missed it, there were two bills that passed last session to protect animals that went into effect January 1st that I'm very happy about. The first is our shark protection bill, HB 553, which signed into law on June 8th, became Act 51. I personally introduced this bill every year starting in 2017, but those versions didn't pass. And finally, this past session, Rep. Lowen, who's from the Big Island, who chairs the Energy Environment Protection Committee in the House, we were able to partner on the introduction of companion bills. That means they're both the same bills, one introduced in the House, one introduced in the Senate, and that was HB 553 and Senate Bill 504. And so as co-chairs of the Environmental Legislative Caucus, we included the shark protection legislation in our 2021 bill package to add important protection to sharks, given that local reef shark populations have seen declines in their population by upwards of 90%. Globally, 71% of shark populations have declined, and 3/4 of shark species are facing potential extinction. And so this legislation extends protections to what many Native Hawaiian families consider to be sacred mono for sharks, and aumakua, the family or personal gods, by prohibiting the intentional killing of sharks for sport or commercial purposes, or for the killing for their jaws, teeth, and other parts. Now, you might recall it was in 2010 that Hawaii became the first state in the country to ban possession, sale, trade, and distribution of shark fins. But we knew back then that it was only a partial solution. So this new law prohibits knowingly capturing or killing any shark within state marine waters with clear necessary exemptions. So here are the exemptions. There's no penalties for the accidental catch and release of a shark. And that there's also exemptions so that important shark behavior research continues. The penalties, $500 for the first offense, $2,000 for the second offense, and $10,000 for the third and subsequent offenses, among many other penalties. So it was cool to see this legislation get an assist from actor Leonardo DiCaprio, who's also a shark lover, who sent out some very supportive social media posts. I'm glad we finally took this important step to protect these animals who are critical to our ocean's health and resiliency for generations to come. The other bill that went into effect on New Year's Day was my no cosmetic animal testing bill. And as a vegetarian for 50 years and a vegan for 10 years, protecting animals from the unnecessary pain and suffering caused by needless testing of cosmetic products, well, it was a no-brainer for me. And I think for many people in Hawaii and across the nation, there's been a growing awareness of this need to do more to protect our furry friends. So people are increasingly looking for cosmetic products that are cruelty-free. With modern testing methods, we don't need to test cosmetic products on animals. Plus today's methods, yeah, they're just more accurate and efficient. So with the passing of Senate Bill 345, now Act 160, Hawaii became the sixth state in the country to ban cosmetic animal testing. And the law prohibits the sale of new product testing on animals as of 1 week ago, January 1st. I first introduced this legislation in 2018 with input from the Hawaiian Humane Society, Pono Advocacy, and also organization Cruelty Free International. And I've reintroduced it every year since then. What's that saying? The fourth time's the charm. So anyway, I'm stoked that it finally passed. So as far as my 2022 legislation, I'll be reintroducing numerous bills and resolutions this upcoming session, though it's still a bit early to give you my final list. And as chair of the Agriculture Environment Committee, my priorities this year in these areas is to focus on expanding local food production, supporting food security, and protecting the rights of all people to pure water, clean air, a stable climate, and healthy environments. So I'll give you a sneak peek of some of the bills that I plan to reintroduce. The first is the Food Hub Pilot Program. It was SB Senate Bill 338 from last session. Food hubs are centrally located facilities with a business management structure. It makes it easier for the aggregation, storage, processing, distribution, and marketing of locally grown produce. Food hubs, they're an integral missing piece of ag infrastructure required to sustain our efforts to double local food production. So this priority would build upon an already burgeoning trend supporting the growth statewide of food hubs by requiring the Department of Ag to establish a 5-year food hub pilot program to increase access to local food and award grant funding to qualified applicants who are wanting to establish or expand a food hub. You may have seen it. It was an excellent article in November 24th in Civil Beat listing the 12 existing food hubs across the state who received $1 million to keep themselves going. So this helps local communities tremendously by providing more options for West Siders, to purchase locally grown food without having to drive so far. And because food hubs, they deal with distribution, marketing, and selling local ingredients to grocers, schools, food banks, small businesses, and families, our local farmers are freed up to concentrate on what they do best, and that is farming. Another one is visitor green fee. This one was introduced by Senator Dela Cruz last session as Senate Bill 666. As we know, our beaches, reefs, ocean forests, parks, and other natural resources are part of what makes Hawaii such a special place. Hawaii's natural resources are actually being, quote unquote, loved to death by too many visitors, and will face new challenges with climate change. So another big priority for me is in 2022 is the visitor green fees bill. And golfers, no, I'm not talking about raising your golf green fees. SB 666, which passed the Senate, it died in the House last session. It established a $20 green fee surcharge on transient accommodations for the purpose of funding workforce programs and services that promote certain environmental goals. So this was a proposed 10-year pilot green fee surcharge and set up a special fund. I mean, truly, it is a no-brainer, right? We should all pay our fair share in protection of our island's beauty and bounty. And then with our growing second city and the announcement of a 4th hotel recently being built in Kauhale, tourism is on the rise again, which can only help the economy on the west side. And if you recall, I think before the pandemic, 2019, they clocked in over 10 million tourists who visited the islands that year. Next is the Green Amendment, SB 502 from last session. Also passed the Senate, didn't make it through the House. And it's one of my top priorities. A Green Amendment is a provision that's added to the Bill of Rights section of a Constitution that recognizes and protects the rights of all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or income, including future generations. It guarantees pure water, clean air, a stable climate, and healthy environments. That's what we're striving for. Our Constitution currently it protects our environmental rights to some extent, but only as set forth in our laws and that are implemented by our agencies, right? So every person in Hawaii should have inalienable rights to clean water and air, a secure climate, healthy ecosystems, which include flora, fauna, and soil, and preservation of the cultural qualities of the environment. And those rights, they should be protected in our Bill of Rights section of the Constitution. So that way it's not dependent on the passage of laws and their proper implementation. They're not just lofty sounding words that can have a real positive impact on what happens in the state. So keep in mind, any of these bills that I'm talking about from last year, that are being reintroduced will most likely be tweaked again. Nothing set in stone as we get more input from you, the general public. And then Red Hill. Wow. I spoke about the disaster at Red Hill facility at our last meeting in November and the contaminated water in the surrounding communities. And like everyone, I'm hugely concerned and saddened by what's happened the last couple months. Some background, the Red Hill fuel storage facility was built in 1943 to store the extra fuel for planes should we ever be attacked and our resources depleted. I made a site visit there years ago. Facility includes 20 large field-constructed underground fuel storage steel tanks that are encased in concrete and surrounded and supported by basalt bedrock. And as you can see there, each tank has a storage capacity of 12.5 to 12.7 million gallons and a total of approximately 225 to 250 million gallons of fuel. And the tanks are over, here's the critical part, 100 feet over the water aquifer, one of our main aquifers here in Oahu. And in January 2014, right, during the course of refilling tank 5, an estimated 27,000 gallons of jet fuel released from the tank. And though they reported it to Department of Health, the Navy reported it, this was not the first time something like this had actually happened. There have been numerous leaks over the years since the tanks were first installed in 1943. I agree 100% with the emergency order that the governor issued, Department of Health issued on December 6th, and I'll be introducing a bill this session supporting that order. And then you can see the emergency order there. We have that slide, yeah. Immediately suspending the operations, installing a drinking water treatment system, assessing the facility operations to safely defuel the tanks within 30 days, defueling the underground storage tanks, and then within 30 days, coming up, assessing the integrity of the entire facility. Update on January 3rd, the Department of Health, they finalized its emergency order, which you see right there, to suspend operations and empty the tanks, and ordered the Navy to follow that emergency order. So the Navy now has 30 days to appeal the final order to the Hawaii Circuit Court. And so the order will remain in effect unless it is taken down or stayed by a court. Okay, and to end on a lighter note, Big Island Farm Tour. During the last week of December, I asked my wife, Carol, and this was part of our wedding anniversary celebration, to join me as I visited several farms on the Hilo side of Big Island to meet with farmers and talk story about their needs. And as the ag environment chair, this is the best part of my job, really. Being out in the field, talking to folks who are doing their best to feed our people, for example, the farmers, or protect us from invasive species or anything having to do with the environment and agriculture. My first stop was Ho'ola Farms, about 10 miles west of Hilo Airport, run by Emily Emmons and her husband, John, who specialize in providing natural agriculture and educational training and hands-on experiences for veterans, caregivers, and their families, among a variety of other programs that they run. John is a veteran, combat veteran, just spoke very movingly on the work that they're doing with veterans, helping them to get involved in agriculture, taking some of these victory gardens to a veteran, and they got notified that I think 5 of the victory gardens that they delivered to these veterans, these guys are now farmers. So it's just amazing how therapeutic and wonderful it's the programs that they're doing. So in their partnership with Go Farm, I participated in their first virtual graduation, and I presented honorary certificates from the Senate to the graduates this last December. Then on to Grow Green. This next stop was about 14 miles away from northeast of Emily's farm. It's a Kauhale farm called Grow Green, and there you see Evan Camber. He and a guy named Seth Jones, they're local organic farmers. They're passionate about growing taro to enhance food security while feeding the most vulnerable and at-risk populations. They escorted us just about 5 minutes. You can see all the taro there in the background. They escorted us, Evan did, up about 5 minutes up the road to their friend Drake Weinert's farm, where Carol and I were treated to an awesome vegan lunch. It was just amazing. Had some Samoan falifu taro, and yeah, anyway, I won't make you envious. And here's Drake Weinert's farm. During our visit there, we learned that his parents, Drake, that's his wife, Susie, that his parents bought the land in 2003. He's lived there with them since 2009. And he's making it a living example of a practice called Korean natural farming. In 2016, they built some additional bedroom units to have farm stays and make it easier for folks to learn. So now he conducts farm trainings for folks from all over the world who come there to learn Korean natural farming. So really cool. They use integrated animal farming in their operation, and they keep cows, pigs, and chickens in their no-smell systems. And it's amazing. When you go, we were at their little pig sty, there is no smell. And you have to see it to believe it, but see it and smell it to believe it, because of this. David Wong on Wai'nai's side that does Korean natural farming. And our visit there years ago, Tulsi, Carol, and my wife and I, we went out there, and that was the first thing that hit us when we got to the farm, was no stench coming from the pigs. Anyway, next, the Hawaiian Sanctuary Retreat Center. That's Steve Lund there on the left, who's the owner. He's a leader in the Puna area, where folks who live there in Puna are commonly referred to as Punatics. Steve runs a tropical sanctuary there of wellness and ecological recreation in the spirit of aloha, and he's dedicated to top experiential education in the areas of health, wellness, permaculture, leadership, and sustainability, as well as opportunities for personal and collective growth. Very impressive layout. And then on to an orchid farm, and with Gordon Denoy and Vern Denoy. This was on the second day. We visited the non-edible farms, Puna Flower Power. And here, this Puna Flower Power, it's run and operated by Gordon and Vern Denoy. Gordon compares the company's formation to a phoenix rising out of the ashes. And the Flower Power Co-op, it was formed in 2019 after the devastation of the volcanic eruption in 2018. Totally wiped these guys out. And so they formed this co-op primarily to support the orchid farmers whose orchids were covered by lava. So Gordon here has 150,000 orchids in these greenhouses in different stages of growth. He also plans to start an apprenticeship program, which will run for 2 years and provide folks with a livable wage for their job training. Next, Greenpoint Nurseries. And our next to the last stop of the day was Eric Denoy's Greenpoint Nurseries. That's Eric on the left and one of his staff on the right. I can't remember his name. It's right outside of Hilo in Panaeva, mostly known as Hawaii's premier producer, exporter of anthuriums. Hang on, there's a jet going over. We live just next to the Kalailoa airport too, so it gets a bit noisy. But Greenpoint Nurseries, they also have, besides anthuriums, tropical flowers and foliages. And they're beautiful anthuriums. They're available in multitude of colors and sizes. They have a large selection of tropical flowers, foliages, and ornamentals. Eric's father started the flower business when he returned to Hawaii from college in 1957, when Hilo's economy had not yet recovered from the impact of World War II. So his father, Harold, he recognized a demand for anthuriums. And so, when military personnel and civilians were sending them home to parents and their girlfriends during the war via airmail and special delivery, and soon it became his life's work. So Eric was the oldest of 4 and followed in his father's footsteps. Really a neat story, to keep the business growing and thriving. And then the Hawaii Ant Lab, our final stop. And this is 3 miles from the airport, Hilo Airport. The Hawaii Ant Lab is run by Cass Vanderwood and his team. There you see his team. Since 1999, a silent scourge has been spreading through the state of Hawaii. I'm sure you've heard about it. It's an invasive ant called the Wasmania auropunctata, otherwise commonly known as the little fire ant. And they're tiny. It's spread throughout the island of Hawaii, and it's becoming established on Oahu, Maui, and Kauai. And though it's only about 1/16 of an inch long, the LFA's impacts are huge. Anyone who has been stung knows how painful the sting is and how irritating the long-lasting itchy rash or welts can be. So ag workers, papaya pickers, anybody working out in the field are constantly stung, and it's making them reluctant to work in these infested locations. So the tropical fruit and coffee industries, they're also affected by dramatic reductions in pre-productivity. The movement of commodities has been impacted as any infested shipments are rejected at the farmer's expense. So in 2008, the Hawaii Ant Lab, it's a project of UH Manoa. It was founded with a small grant from HISC, that's the Hawaii Invasive Species Council, to conduct research on the species and to help affected residents with advice on treatment. And since its inception, Hawaii Ant Lab has become one of the leading LFA research entities in the world, known for having developed effective LFA management strategies for tropical environments. So unfortunately, changes in appropriations, they're having issues. They're having to, it's having a real bad effect on their staffing. So the domino effect, it's left Hawaii Ant Labs with only partial funding for 2022, with staffing and services cut 50%. So, wow, I can't believe I talked for a whole hour. So I just want to say mahalo again for coming. No time for Q&A today, I'm sorry. I do have a 10 o'clock thing that I've got to get at. And as we forge ahead into 2022, I'd just like to give you a brief recap of 2021 in just this little video. It lasts about a minute long. So mahalo, and then mahalo for participating today. I really do like to interact, but remember our session starts on January 19th. So if you have any ideas for bills to introduce or reintroduce, it's not too late to contact my office. It doesn't have to be fully fleshed out in proper language. It can just be a concept that you have. We have attorneys that will put together the actual language of the bill and get it right to you. Then you'll see my contact information at the end. So aloha everybody. Here's the recap. Audio?
Oh, sorry about that, Senator. Let me just try that again.
Compassion and caring. One more time. I can't hear it. Technical difficulties?
Okay, let's try it one more time. It was working this morning when we tested it. So
yeah, I remember, Jake. Go ahead, give it one more shot.
can you guys hear it?
Yeah. Now we can't. The Hawaii imports 85. Aloha, everyone. See you next time. Mahalo. Have a great day.